Hey everyone, welcome to Right On, the podcast from Final Draft. This is the show where we talk about all things screenwriting. I'm your host, Phil Galasso. Today we have an interview with Kim Garland, one of the writers behind the new series Chucky.
Hi, I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end.
What did you do?
Mommy says real killing is bad.
Yeah, well, Mommy's full of shit. Look around you. It's the World Series of Slaughter.
Stop. Did you feel that?
Everywhere Jake Wheeler goes, death seems to follow.
This creepy doll just creeps me the hell out.
It's kill or be killed. Everybody's gotta choose.
What's going on with you? You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Chucky. He's gone.
Dude, we have a serious doll problem.
If you only knew.
Hosts Sade Sellers and Kim Garland discussed what sets Chucky apart from other horror villains, balancing appealing to fans of the films and newcomers to the series, the importance of queer representation on the show, and more. Check it out.
Welcome back to Right On, everyone. It's Sade here again, and it's finally happening. If you've been listening to the podcast for over a year, which I know you have been, you know that I have been trying to track down this guest specifically to talk about this show since she came on our panel. I don't even know how long ago it was, maybe last year or a while ago. Anyway, I'm here with Kim Garland, one of the staff writers on the new Chucky series. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Sade. I am so happy to be here with you. It is really always a pleasure. And since we're like friends in real life, this is going to be fun. It's going to be a blast.
It is. We were patient. I've been in her Twitter DMs almost every 3 months going, hey, can I talk about Chucky now? And she goes, no, no.
I know you've been incredibly patient, and I feel like we're being so rewarded because we're getting the chance to talk about it after the pilot airs, which just opens up so much more conversation for us. So it's super cool.
That's true. All good things come for those who wait. Had we had done the interview before, I just would have asked like technical writing questions, but now I've seen the show and I have so many good questions to ask that I'm sure the audience wants to know too. So this is your official spoiler alert. I normally don't do spoilers. You guys know that. But I'm too excited as a horror fan, as a Chucky fan. We're going to go into the episode. So if you haven't seen it yet, you can go ahead and just pause this playlist and come back to it after you've seen the show. You're going to enjoy it and you're going to understand more once you've seen the show, which, by the way, I watched it on Hulu because it's streaming through Sci-Fi, which is so funny because I don't have cable anymore. And I think that's a fun fact because I'm like, I don't have a cable box, but I always have a Hulu there and I can rewind it and I can fast forward it. And it makes me so happy as someone who grew up in the 90s and that wasn't an option. You missed the show, you missed the show.
I saw it on Hulu. I saw the West Coast airing on Hulu as well.
Yes, see, it's perfect, the future.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we dive into the show, let's go ahead and give people a brief background of how you came to be in the Chucky writers' room.
Okay, yeah. So I came to LA about 4 years ago already, making horror short films, writing, crewing, doing all those things you do. I'm originally from New York City. And when I got out here, I was, it's so different, the Hollywood landscape than the New York City landscape in terms of this industry. It's just so big out here. And I really didn't know how to tackle it. And so I made the choice to kind of, I write and I direct, and I've been doing, film, but I made the choice to really focus all of my efforts on one way to break in. To be honest, I really wanted the opportunity to work at this level, to work professionally at this level. And so I really focused on TV writing. It felt like the absolute best match for my voice, for the type of stories I tell. It just felt, and here's the truth, I didn't have any TV writing samples when I made this choice. So it was really brave and bold looking back. But it was one of those things where I thought, look, I spent 10 years basically getting to that point, learning a ton, writing and crewing and directing and doing everything I could to learn. And the one thing I felt really confident about was even if I'm starting from scratch with samples, all of the skills that I've acquired to this point, I really believe they would all just come through. And so I wasn't worried about making a choice where I didn't have samples and more focused on where did I think I was the best match because I would then have the best chance of breaking in through that door. And so that's what I did. I took classes here in LA at Script Anatomy and wrote a pilot, wrote a spec, and just really tried to learn as much as I can to submit to the fellowships, to all the fellowship programs. I was very fortunate. I was accepted into the Blacklist and Women in Film Episodic Lab. And it was through that lab that I became repped. And so I was with the manager, and that manager was the one who, it was like 2 weeks before he, since he'd repped me, when he said, so what do you think about Chucky? Chucky's coming up. And I was like, oh, that's so new to me. Like, he could have come in and said, what do you think of, making a show about a slipper? And I would have been like, I'm really excited about that,
Sounds good.
But the truth is it's Chucky. So I had the chance to interview for it and meet Don Mancini, and we spent time, just really talking and getting to know each other enough to get a sense if he thought I would be a good match for the room, for the show, to fill out, I'm the staff writer, so I was the lowest level writer, but to really fill out his room. And for that interview, I just prepared so hard. Every fiber of my being went into this, just investigating every single thing I could about Don. And I found this great little tidbit in my research, and this is what I want to tell the writers, research, because I discovered that Don directed an episode wrote an episode Tales from the Crypt, and it happens to be an episode. Yeah. It happens to be an episode that takes place in a funeral home, and my family owns a funeral home, and I grew up above our funeral home.
I never knew this about you. I'm learning so much.
You were learning so much, and so that little tidbit was just one more way to just show him that, like, I really want this so badly. There's every part of me is going to show up here ready to work with you, and I think it all came through in that interview. And then after that, it was all pretty quick, and I was in the room. So it really was brilliant. Focus, obviously always hustle. And from my point of view, I'm a little research junkie. I believe in researching things so you can go into conversations and just feel really confident that you're ready to roll.
And that is such a great just overview of one path, right? That happened to be your path. And there's so many different paths, but what I'm really getting from what you said is that you did the work and you had work to show. And that was how you got into these things. And so that's the biggest lesson and takeaway I hope everyone takes is like, you have to do the work and have to have the physical work to be seen to get to those areas. So what was the first Chucky film you've ever seen? Like, was it in order?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Completely. So I'm pretty sure the first one I saw was probably Child's Play 2. And then I'm pretty sure the next one I saw was Bride. Like, just jumping around.
What a jump. Yeah. I was like, what a jump.
And then for the interview, for meeting Don and getting to come and talk about the show, I sat down one weekend and I watched all 7 films in a row, just back to back.
Oh, you binged.
I binged it hard. And a lot of it was, I really wanted to just take the full journey and kind of compress what he had done in 30 years and just be able to just step through them back to back and get a taste for where he was as a writer, where he is, how he developed into a director. I mean, it was so informative about him. But the truth is, I enjoyed watching those films so much. My husband and son joined me. We sat down for a weekend. We watched 7 films together as a family. And we started off in this like classic horror mode, and then went all the way to the full satire. And then it comes back around to be, other classic horror. And it was just wonderful. I wanted it so badly after that. And I knew I could contribute, like, in this world.
Chucky, it brings families together. I remember my quick little Chucky story is I was terrified. Absolutely. I was like 8 when Bride and Seed came out. So when I would see the Chucky doll, like, this is how I'm also aging myself, in the window of the, what's that Gothic store that's in all the malls? Do you remember? See, now I don't remember it. There's a Gothic store in all the malls that would have this Chucky doll in their window, and I would literally cry to my mother every time we passed by that window in the mall. So I was terrified of him for so long until I got to college, and then I was like, well, I'm going to rewatch the movies. And then I was like, oh, it's not so bad. This is actually really great. What was I so scared of? So
I think that's my little a universal experience. Yeah. I've talked to a lot of people, and folks tend to see these movies like really, really young. I think there's a little bit of a rope-a-dope with the doll.
Yeah.
And like parents are like, oh, this can't be so bad, and then all of a sudden your kid's like, either turns into the biggest horror fan or is now scared of dolls the rest of their life.
Or is now scared of dolls. Yeah. Which happened. My grandmother, she would give us porcelain dolls for Christmas and I smashed them because I was so afraid that they were like, I've had nightmares that Chucky was my brother. Like when my baby brothers were born, they're twins. I had a dream that I went to their bed and it was Chucky. So he lives in my world, in my orbit for so long. So it's nice to be on good terms with him now. Like we're good friends. You know? We've met on the middle ground. So let's jump into this pilot.
Don't trust him though. I'll tell you, don't trust him.
I know. I always have my guard down with Chucky.
Always the friend till the end. Never buy that.
But you know what? Let's talk about that because that's really what's brilliant about his character because he's a serial killer. I'm not justifying his people, I promise you, but he lives by his own set of rules and code. Like in the show, especially, it's Jake, right? The teenager. Chucky doesn't put up with the bullying. That's what he won't do. And that's almost like, yeah, Chucky, you kill people for fun, but he has his own set of codes. We're like, yeah, but I draw the line at like bullying. That's never going to be my thing. I love it. I love it so much.
I think that's part of the fun of it being, you know, I mean, Charles Lee Ray is a guy. He's a person. Like he's not a, you know, obviously the transference into the Chucky doll is supernatural, but we still have basically that character. So he's going to have all the quirks of a regular person. He's not a big, formidable, quiet character, let's say like a Michael Myers kind of thing. It's so different. Right. And so as like, you know, a regular Joe serial killer, we'll call him, that's part of what's so interesting about his journey. I mean, could you, like, Chucky has a family. Could you imagine some of these other slashers having a family? And I think that's part of what's so fun is he's able to, because, you know, inherently the character is this guy who, you know, has finally, by the time we meet him in the end of the series, he's given up on trying to go back in a human body and fully embracing the doll. But it's still a person in there that's living and evolving and changing. And even his points of view, if they evolve, well, that's all of our points of view evolve. So he's super fun to work with.
Right. And yes, he may be using Jake. Like I could totally see that. Like, oh, he needs this kid to kind of be around because he needs like someone to do his bidding. But I do feel like there's a small part of Chucky that just doesn't like to see the little guy being beat down because he was that guy, you know, like I love in the beginning of the episode, you do the flashes of like his childhood. It's very quick. It's very brief. It's just kind of like an overview, which brings me to my next question. So you're in the writer's room. It's day one. We have over 20 years of Chucky content to kind of compact for new viewers. Like the old viewers are gonna be like, yeah, I know all this, but you still have to catch up new people and who weren't around. So what are the conversations like on day one? Like, where are we starting? Or did you have a plan? Did Don have a plan? And then it's like, okay, we already know where to go.
Yeah, I think Don had a rough plan. And I think his plan was very, very smart, with the plan being to start this show introducing Chucky through characters who don't really know who he is or know what he is. And that gives us a time to really introduce the audience to this story world. And because that's really what you have to do, is you have to kind of get them into the story and the characters. And anyone can start Chucky with no sense of the whole franchise and still really successfully enter the world. And then the challenges come, obviously, when we start really bringing in those franchise characters, is how do you introduce them in a way to catch up the people who have not been watching the franchise without, you know, wasting the time of the people who have. So I think that was probably one of the more delicate work, is that transition where we start bringing in the characters from the franchise, and we want new viewers to know who they are and why they matter, and really how they've been impacted by, you know, 30 plus years of Chucky in their life. But I think Don's plan to kind of start us in one story and start feathering in the franchise characters so we can give people who don't know the franchise a chance to figure out who everyone is. So when we get to this, you know, like the back half of the season, you know, and characters start showing up, hopefully there'll be enough context for new viewers that they'll get that, you know, this is a world that's been going on for a long time, yet it's so easy to step in through the TV show, get caught up, and have like a really fun time with the show.
And I love that because we do get a brief hint at it when Andy, we know it's Andy, or at least the OGs know it's Andy, calls Jake on the phone to basically say, hey, check the batteries. Like, what are you doing? I want you this doll, be careful. And I thought that was such a perfect way to do it by putting the doll on an eBay thing and it's going to sell it. It's very 2021, you know, that's what I really love about Chucky, the series. You can follow every decade like through the films, like the technology. So speaking of Gen Z, they're the leads in this pilot for sure. We've got 4 Gen Z players. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. I believe this is the first time Don has used an openly, well, he's kind of open. Jake is in and out, but there are openly gay characters in this pilot piece as the leads. And I don't think I've seen that through the Chucky series. And it's probably a question for him, but how important was it in the room to represent the queer community, especially because I know Don is queer himself. So what were the discussions like with that? Like, we need to represent this community. We need to do it in a way that's honest and true. And I loved how it wasn't even like, it's not a big deal. It's a very 2021 way. You know, there's a kid that comes up in the hallways, says, can you introduce me your cousin, a boy? And it's just like, yeah, right. No, that's it. There's no big deal about this. Like, oh, he goes, oh, I'm sorry, you're just not my type. I love that. It feels like we've watched this series, grown up with the times, and so have I. And I just wanted to know what the conversations were like in the room when we're dealing with the queer representation.
So that was incredibly important to Don, and he has, every right in the world to be able to take this series, develop a lead character that's really personal to him. I mean, he's been giving us these stories for so long. It's almost like an opportunity for him to just take it the whole way, fully invest, his personal point of view in it. The pilot was already written when the room started. So he had very well established. So Jake is out, and he was out, before this series starts. And so it's very well established that he was going to be an out character right from the beginning. Having Don in the room and knowing that a lot of these issues that Jake is dealing with are very tender and personal to Don, we were able to really just dive into the work. And Don was there to shepherd, like really when we would want to make choices about that relationship, about Jake and Devin, the two of the leads, we would pitch anything we wanted. It was always so wonderful. He always is so open. And then if he saw an opportunity to refine an idea or take a little moment from his life, which would elevate it, so he was there doing that consistently. So this is very much his vision to bring this character, this lead character of a major TV show to the world. And to very much bring it to the queer youth community. Like, he didn't grow up with that. I didn't grow up with that. You didn't grow up with that.
No.
And it matters. It genuinely matters that queer kids see themselves and see themselves as complex.
Exactly.
Jake is not simple. A lot of times your queer characters, you're very careful. You always, once you get past the days of when they were always the villains, now all our queer characters are, a lot of times they don't seem complex enough because they have to then be really good guys. You're afraid of villainizing. Yeah. And I think that's part of why it feels so certainly fresh to me, is the opportunity to show a character, warts and all, out of the queer community without any fear that, this idea of villainizing or making too angelic, which often is what happens. Don doesn't have to really worry about that. He comes in it from a place of such authenticity, bringing his own personal experiences so that Jake can be very complex and it's still very real.
And the best part about Chucky, the entire franchise, I would say that is very different from a Freddy or a Jason or a Michael Myers, is that he has this perfect balance between really dark, serious moments and so funny. Kim, we were dying laughing with each other on Twitter because there were so many funny moments in this pilot, and it shocked me. I wasn't actually prepared for that. If you guys go to my Instagram, I am crying over these scenes, especially when Chucky smacks Jake across the face.
Oh my goodness. So here's the thing that surprised me too. Like things like that, I can't remember if that was written in the script, but somehow I doubt it. Somehow I feel like that's just like Don's genius, when he gets there. And obviously it's perfectly shot, edited, acted. So, I mean, it is a straight up B slap just right across this kid's, and it shocks you because you didn't see it coming. And that moment also that we're discussing, I believe, Charlie, that's the moment where that's an homage to the Karen Barkley moment from Child's Play, from the original. I think it's almost verbatim, but that's not how it ends in Child's Play. The scene goes in a totally different direction. And so I feel like in a way it was like so genius for the OG fans to be like, oh my goodness, this is great. This is an homage to that classic Child's Play scene. And then it totally changes with that slap.
It's so good.
It's shockingly funny, that moment. I just burst, and I've seen it like 3 times now, the pilot. I just burst out laughing every time.
This is a show that will subvert your expectations, because I in my head was like, oh, just smack this kid. He's so annoying, but he's never going to do that. And then he did. And I went, you know what? I'm sold. This is everything I wanted in a show. It's so good. And Chucky is one of those rare someone on Twitter said he's an anti-hero, and I might have to agree. I'm like rooting for him, especially when it comes to protecting Jake. I'm like, kill the dad, kill that mean girl, kill them all. And I know that's terrible, but somehow Chucky makes the kills fun and he makes them interesting. I do want to know, what is the balance? Because I was actually shocked that you could curse on TV as well. I was like, oh, he's the same Chucky. And I think that was everyone's apprehension going into the first show. We're like, well, can we have the same Chucky? If he's on TV, he's going to be restricted. Like those movies are hardcore rated R. And I was so happy to see this pilot to go, it's not fully blown, like every F word every 5 seconds, Chucky, but it's still got that humor, that dark humor, and it's still scary. So what is it like working with the network? Like, how many F words can we have in this episode?
So that is something wisely Don actually negotiated very early on, and not negotiated meaning like obviously the FCC isn't changing its mind for him, but
right.
Was only going to land in a place where Chucky could be Chucky. And so obviously, and just like you, cable TV, I wasn't sure how far things could go. We all know a streamer can go there, all this. So we weren't sure, myself, I wasn't sure how far they would go. And then we got in the room. One of the things he told us early on was, I think in the room, he told us it was 13. Can I say the F word on 13 Fs? Yeah. 13 F bombs. I don't know. I think recently they said 10. It basically doesn't matter. There were so many that it's like, no one was sitting there saying, oh, we better cut this one because we ran out. We better cut this one because we ran out. It's just write this script. Chucky is profane. Like the idea of Chucky not dropping F-bomb, that's not our Chucky. And so Don made sure that he put the show in a place where our Chucky can be our Chucky, where he can stay, foul and violent and funny and dark and complex and a family man and all the wild things he is. So having Chucky not be censored, including honestly in the violence, that's going to continue. Those kills are really important to the franchise. They're really important, certainly to any horror movies, but slasher films in particular. So much is you want iconic kills. You want them big, you want them splashy, you want them memorable. You want, so all of that is permissible. So the TV show will not have to hold back. And if anything, it really was always the desire to give more, was what we talked about in the room. We know there's fan expectations, and we know expectations are that we can't say whatever we want or have violent kills or have a lot of gore or all these things. So our goal in so many moments were like, if we want to do X, can we do X plus 1? Is there one more level of amazing Chuckiness we can add to this moment or this kill or this scene or this, whatever it is, to make sure those who love Chucky are feeling like the TV show is giving them fresh new materials. Like we would like to compete with like the greatest Chucky kills, like those awesome super cuts. If some of the kills on the show get in there, that's like, to me, that's like a huge win.
No, I'm so excited. This is so messed up. I'm excited every week to come back to see the kills. I mean, I'm excited about that.
Look, so much of it, and this is what I love about horror fans. Look, people who don't get it. And I really understand that. From the outside, it looks barbaric what we're into. But I think so much of what's not understood is the incredible appreciation of effects makeup out of the horror community. And practical effects in particular, but really just great makeup effects just matters to horror fans. So it's not a matter of sadism when you get in there to create an amazing kill. Like you're really going in there to try to create something where even the most hardened horror fan will look at that and be like, I don't know how they did that, but that was amazing. Or, like things like we've seen so many amazing makeup effects where you can't stop talking about it later. And I think that's so much of what people who like horror are into is the kills are great because we're just all one-upping each other in terms of these incredible practical effects. And I think that's what horror people get that sometimes non-horror people don't. A lot of those kills are about how spectacular can you make, honestly, the artwork, and that's how I see it.
And it really is. It honestly is artwork from the production design. Because first of all, Chucky's uncle's house is ridiculous. And I saw Chucky's uncle's house, not Chucky's uncle's house, sorry, Jake's uncle, when Jake has to go live with his uncle. I was like, that is a grandiose, that is a beautiful home. But it was reminiscent of one of the later Chucky films. I can't remember which one, but it was the one that had
Curse of Chucky.
Curse of Chucky. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Was that done on purpose? Right? It looks like that house.
It does look like it. I think really what's on purpose is ultimately is Don has this really wonderful appreciation of when you bring together dark and light, violence and beauty. He loves the really high-end aesthetic being brought into horror world.
I like that.
Yeah,
Gothic horror. Ooh.
It's
romantic horror. I like it.
I agree. And I actually think it's his style, and it's just his work is so beautiful. Yeah. And then it's juxtaposed to the violence, which I think, it's part of Chucky's thing. So this show really gives Don a chance to lean into his aesthetic and bring us that beautiful, lush world that you're starting to see in the trailers, and blend it with our favorite slasher, that kind of thing. But it's very purposeful, all these choices he was making to create this sort of hyper stylized world, which is such a great place for Chucky to live in.
Did you get to go to set?
Mm-mm.
You didn't make it? Was it a pandemic?
Yeah. COVID, I think, is kept, sadly, all the writers upset these days. I got to go to a little premiere party though on Tuesday. And so I got to meet Jennifer Tilly, and
Angel on Earth. We love her.
I know.
Love her.
Those are those special moments. And she was everything you think she is in the absolute best way. Just spectacular. Just such a blessing, right?
Actually, but now that you mentioned it, that first episode, it didn't give us any OGs yet, like you said, but I'm so excited to see them come. I think it was brilliant that we got to meet the new class almost, to invest in them, because I'm invested in Jake. I want the best for Jake. Mm-hmm. I want Jake to get along and stick up for himself and grow a spine. And I hope Chucky, this is a weird, buddy comedy. I'm hoping he does grow a pair through Chucky, but not a murderous pair, but more so stand up for yourself, Jake. You're a smart, good looking kid. You're kind. I don't want these people running over you. So I can't wait to see how Jake arcs over the season from how we met him, especially with all these new players coming in. I'm just really excited about that. But I was wondering, because the doll itself, Chucky's, for the most part, has stayed in the same vein. His face during Curse of Chucky he had some Botox done. I could tell he had a little work done around Curse, but he looks good here. So just the animatronics and all of I want to know, was it puppeteering? Was it, I don't know if you know these answers.
I do.
How is it done? Okay.
So it's all practical. So the entire puppet, and I hate using that word. So the entire animatronic, just sounds so much more worthy of Chucky, is fully practical. I actually got to hear Don talk about this recently, and it was wonderful. What's new? What's the CG part is actually something that we're all doing today. We don't think about it. All the puppeteers, they no longer have to build a stage 6 feet above. The whole set had to have a 6 foot space underneath. For all the films up to a certain point. I don't remember if it was up until Curse, maybe, because you couldn't just take the puppeteers out of the shot. So today, basically, they can have the puppeteers in there, and they're probably in the green suits. And now they can be taken out, but it changes the opportunity. I mean, building every set with 6 feet below it is prohibitively expensive. So to take that whole element out of it and be able to simply take the puppeteers out using CG, but the entire work of Chucky that you're seeing. And this is the great Tony Gardner, makeup legend, who did Chucky, certainly for our show. And so you're able to really lean into, that's practical. And I know some people are looking at it and saying it has to have a little CG because his face is moving very smoothly. That's just really modern animatronics in the hands of a master. So
it looks
Tony
so
Gardner
good.
Came in and nailed it. Almost to the point where I want to tell people, like we're doing now, it really is practical. We promise. It's just they're so talented. You're convinced there has to be CG involved.
No, it looks so good. On my Instagram, I posted the clip where the blonde is in the classroom, waiting for the principal to come, and Chucky just jumps off the desk. I died laughing, first of all, because it was just the audacity of this doll. Just in previous Chucky movies, he would just wait for half the movie to reveal himself, but now he's like, I don't care. Let me just go scare this girl. But how smooth that jump was, I was like, this is amazing. The production quality is so good.
It really is. I mean, and again, even the last shot, that last scene we were talking about with Jake and Chucky, seeing him standing, the full head to toe shot is such a big deal for Chucky. It just takes so much time, so many people there. Those shots are gold. So really, every time you see the little tip, you see him head to foot, that is a major, major shot. When you see him walking, that's a whole nother ballgame. Again, it just takes so many people to get in there and bring him to life that when you're able to get those really exciting shots of Chucky walking into a room, that's a big, awesome deal. And this show is absolutely going to try to really let you spend time with Chucky. So you will see just all, just basically all the amazingness that he is today, what they've created visually is just so striking.
It honestly felt like a love letter to the fans. And that's why I appreciate Don so much, because he is, if anything, true to his fan base. He'll try new things. He'll throw it in there, but he's like, I know what you guys want. I know what you like, and I'm going to make sure I hit it. And he nailed it in that pilot. I was so impressed. You go in with apprehensions because you see all these remakes happening. We're not going to name any names, but you're just like so disappointed with the reimagining. And then that's because they have different creators on board for almost every project. Don has been with it since day one. And so he knows everything about Chucky and knows what we like and knows what we react to. And what was it like sitting there on Twitter going through everyone's tweets, just raving over the show?
I have to be honest, I was really blown away. Like, you want that response, don't get me wrong, but it is so complicated, a 30 plus year franchise, a huge fan base who's really just so passionate about this series, meaning the whole franchise, everything there. You always have that feeling, you can't please everyone. There's always that feeling, right? And so Don is super conscious of the fan base, and he really genuinely cares. It's not like we had a room where it was like, screw the fans, we're going to do whatever we want. Like, completely the opposite. There is so much appreciation and affection from our team toward the fans that disappointing the fan base would have been a huge miss. That's just the truth. We would have just missed the mark. Even if newbies came in and they were like, I love this show, and the fans were like, this is not my Chucky. Oh, that would have been so hard because that's who it's for. We're hoping to bring lots of new fans, and then we'll be caring for them as the series moves forward. Right. But, Don, absolutely. He's so there for the fans. He really gets it. He wants you to have a great time.
Again, not going to name names, but we've been down this road before with a similar Chucky series that disappointed us so thoroughly about 2-3 years ago. We're not going to name names, but it came into theaters, and that was like a slap in the face. And that's because Don wasn't involved. And, patience is beauty, because we all waited as Chucky fans to say, let's just wait for the series. Let's just wait for the real thing. And then we got this beautifully set up, I could not have watched a better pilot, honestly, for the show. And so what was your biggest lesson you learned while in the writer's room working on Chucky?
Well, for me, honestly, like almost everything, because it was my first writer's room. So we all co-wrote episodes. This is great lineage from Brian Fuller on Hannibal to Nick Antosca on Channel Zero to Don Mancini on Chucky. And it's kind of like starting with Brian Fuller, kind of showing how to run a room really well in a really healthy way. And I do mean that. Like, I know there's so much going on right now with people, crew needing sleep and safety and protecting themselves. And it's so critical. So we had the incredible fortune of coming out of that lineage of showrunners who really see the basic humanity as seriously the least they can do. Like these were showrunners who have reasonable hours, reasonable breaks. Everything was just so humane. So I know it's a strange thing to say, because, hopefully someday I'll have a show of my own, but I want to believe I'm going to come out of that lineage, honestly, like, so we can then track it from Brian to Nick to Don to me and say that, wouldn't that be cool? But to be able to say that we all came into this, with really open, warm hearts, but also had a role model as a showrunner. And I believe for all three of us, the first show, no, not for Nick, but, as a showrunner who really knew how to run a great room. So I think what I learned was what a great room looks like, how to run a great, healthy writer's room. And that is something, if you get lucky enough to get in a room like that early, then you're a lot less likely to put up with like the BS that other rooms might expect from you. It can be done on time, on budget, make your audience happy, and we can all have personal lives and we can all be healthy and friendly. So I hope that's what I took away was someday be able to run a room like Don ran it.
Gosh, that's lovely to hear, because you hear so many literal horror stories of writers' rooms for things that you love. And then that makes me really sad, but it sounds like it was an amazing experience from start to finish. That's an amazing first room experience that not many people get, not even their 20th, 30th rooms or whatever. Without giving any details away, okay, I'll do it this way. Give me 3 adjectives to describe the rest of the season for Chucky. Then we don't spoil anything.
Heartfelt, batshit, and spectacular.
Love it. And that's perfect because that's literally what it is. And then, but what are you up to? Are you still doing horror stuff?
Absolutely. I wrapped another show. I did a Netflix show, a series called The Imperfects. It's coming out in 2022. And that show is a sci-fi horror comedy, a story. It's like a mad scientist and the monsters that their, DNA manipulation has created.
I like it.
That sort of thing.
Already.
So definitely everyone should be looking out for that in 2022. And then on my own, I'm writing, I'm developing, I'm doing all those things that you do. Basically, I'm hustling. And that's always the thing. Like, obviously there's that feeling, oh, if only you could break in, right? And I'm 100% there with everybody.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm 2 years after breaking in, 10 years before. Trust me, I'm still 100% mentally there. But it's always the hustle. When you break in, it still has all the same challenges in terms of you just got to work so hard, and you always have to be trying to do something. And it's all that same stuff. So I am in hustle mode and anticipating another show coming out next year. And then honestly, I'm super excited to finish watching the season with everybody else of Chucky.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to be such a fun ride. Like, I'm excited to even just be there with everyone and watching it.
I'm going to be there week to week. And I usually don't do that for shows. That's really new for me. I'm not the kind of person that likes to watch a show with the internet, because I like to watch in my own time. But this was really fun to tweet with people. You talking to me talking to you. It was really fun. Halloween's coming up. What are you going to be? Anything? Are you dressing up?
I know it seems late. I haven't decided yet. It's one of those things. I'm a weird kind of last minute. I don't know why. Like, I kind of like last minute it. So I probably am not going to do anything Chucky because it's a little on the nose. But I'm also can't guarantee I won't. Like, it's pretty much like over this weekend, I'm going to just make some choices and go pick up a few little things and figure out.
You could be the cat. So I forgot to mention that when he talks about the cat in that last scene, I laughed so hard. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the cat. You mean your dad? Like, my bad. So good.
That is a very funny line. Again, Chucky he really is funny. And I think very much like a Freddy Krueger, and Freddy was one of my favorite growing up. I think I do like that, combining my slasher with like that kind of a personality. Like, there's something about having, that smart talking, wisecracking. I personally like it.
I liked it too. We could laugh together, but I could never turn my back towards him because I know he would stab me in it without hesitation.
Literally,
he's just the best character. Well, Kim, thank you. We did this. It's amazing. We finally did it. And it was, like you said, it was perfect timing because the show is so good. And I know it's only going to get better from here. I can't believe how much y'all nailed this. I mean, I can believe it, but also against all odds, 20, 30 years in the game, every time someone comes against Chucky, he always wins. And the TV show is no different. I look forward to hopefully many, many seasons of it because I do think it works great for TV. And I want Jake to take Chucky to college with him if he can. I want him to take him when he gets married. I want a whole thing. I love it. And I'm also really scared for Jake. I'm going to tell you that right now because the writer in me is like, y'all going to put him through some stuff. And I'm gonna be mad. You might get some hate tweets from me, but it's all just no, it's not personal. It's like, I'm just a fan. So.
To be honest, when people I watched one guy tweeting when he was watching it and he was just yelling and screaming so much stuff and it was cracking, but it was love. Like he was like, I don't know why you do this. And I don't know why you do that. And I'm like, I just love that. I mean, again, I've been going to horror movies and theaters forever. We all know that's what we do. We're like, don't go there. Like, and just see people have that experience. Hate tweet me, girl. I love it. I'm
going to be like, leave Jake alone. I'm going to start my own campaign. # leave Jake alone. Stop it.
That is fair. But that means you're invested. That's why, how in the world could I not love having someone say, don't touch that character, whatever you do. And I obviously I can't promise that it's Chucky, but
I know. And you
I'm
don't
glad
have
you're
to,
invested.
You don't have to say it out loud, but I look forward to the day that Andy gets to meet Jake. I just think if that happens, I'm not saying I don't know if it's going to happen, but if that happens, it will make my heart flutter because it's full circle. It's full circle moment.
Well, that's it. If that happens, that's part of the beauty of the series is for Jake and Andy. If they meet, these have basically Andy is what Jake could be if 30 years go by and he has Chucky, so I actually, that's part of what I love about actually diving into the old characters like Andy, like Kyle from Child's Play 2. I don't feel like, and I feel like actually Halloween is doing that very well right now. the idea of these multi-decade franchises, if you haven't broken continuity and you have some of the same characters, these are traumatized people. And I feel like particularly Andy and Kyle were an opportunity to kind of look at how traumatized you would be if this really was your life. So you do have to kind of move quickly in a horror show. Like, you can't spend too much time like, hey, you have no choice but to move along. But I felt like Andy and Kyle gave us a chance to really look at the impact without having to like slow down the show and show it, necessarily on this new set of characters. But it's clear. Once you see them, you'll realize, yeah, this is not easy. This is not easy being in this world, but they're badasses. So, they'll figure it out.
And my boy Jake needs a team behind him. He don't have a team yet. He needs a roster. Someone needs to tag in and help him. He don't have a daddy no more, not a mama. His cousin is shiesty. I can't wait to see what's going on over there because a part of me likes him and a part of me is like, I'll hope Chucky gets your ass tonight. But I'm like, give him a second. Maybe he'll grow and breathe. Maybe it is the blonde. But anyway, that's honestly the brilliance of your show is the characters. Your characters are flawless, and whatever happens in plot, I'm invested in all of them. So I think that's just a testament to the writer's room and the show running, and obviously Don and Kim, my friend. Congratulations! I hope you have a big glass of white wine. It's good for the heart, but also just to celebrate your hard work. And let me know what that Halloween costume is going to be. I every year say I'm going as Darth Maul, and it never happens. But maybe this year, I don't know. Well, Kim, I hope to have you back on again. Maybe at the season finale we can come back.
That would be fun. I would love it for sure.
You could do a recap. I'm just pitching it out there.
Great. Yeah, let's
leave it. Take it, leave it.
Yep.
Okay, we'll throw it out in the universe. Okay. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Sade.
Thanks again to Kim Garland for coming on the show and to Sade Sellers for hosting. You can catch Chucky on Sci-Fi and USA Tuesdays at 10 p.m. And as always, thanks to you, our listeners. If you liked this episode, leave us a review, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. For news about new episodes and more, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Final Draft Inc., and on Instagram at Final Draft Screenwriting. This podcast was produced by Kayla Guess and co-produced by Emma Vranich. Editing is by Sean Bonnet. Music is by T. Kelly. Thanks again, everyone. Until next time, right on.